they were resting, another family would come by, which coincidentally they would have the same last name as the Martins, Martin. And they would come up and ask if their kids could play together, and of course William and Clyde obliged. And over the next few minutes, the family's children would play in that tall grass and everything would be fine. But that was when one of the kids suggested that they play hide and seek. Don't play hide and seek in the forest, in the woods, in Appalachian. So when the game began, all the children would sprint off into different directions, including Dennis Martin. And he was seen about 50 feet from his dad on the edge of the field on the Tennessee side. So roughly 5 minutes would go by and all the children would eventually come out, except for Dennis. And his father would naturally become immediately concerned. When he saw Douglas's face, he knew something was wrong. So everyone in the field obviously began to search the immediate area, screaming his name and looking behind every tree and bush. But Dennis was nowhere to be found. And at the time of his disappearance, Dennis was wearing a bright red shirt. He was roughly 4 feet tall and weighed about 55 pounds. He is also described as having brown hair and brown eyes. So the authorities were naturally called and an extensive search began. But as the search continued, they would find no trace of Dennis. The park rangers began by asking people in the immediate area if they saw Dennis or saw anything that was suspicious, but everyone would reply that they had not seen the boy. And around 5 p.m. on July 14th, only a few miles away from where Dennis went missing, the Key family would begin a hike near Rowan's Creek in Cades Cove. While on their hike, they heard, quote unquote, an enormous, sickening scream. And they would walk a few hundred yards in the direction of the scream to see if something was wrong and if they could help.
A man and his children, and they were trying to photo the deer. They were following the deer up Rowan's Creek, and they heard a child scream. The father ran up there, and he saw a man dart into the woods, and he described him as unkempt.
And Mr. Key would go on to investigate the scream by himself, just in case it was like a dangerous situation for his family. But when he reached the area where he thought the scream had come from, he would see a man in the bushes who darted off into the woods. So he quickly turned and left the area, thinking that that was extremely weird, and then he would learn only a few hours later that a boy had gone missing in that area hours before he saw the man in the bushes. While this is incredibly strange, it will be incredibly blatant. Mr. Keys would even go on to state, "But it wasn't a bear, it was a man hiding in the bushes. He was definitely trying to hide from us." Which sounds suspicious as f. So the search for Dennis would move on well into the night, but be hindered by a very large rainstorm, causing the search to stop for a night. And in the morning, an extensive search party was planned to begin operating the next day. And when June 15th came, one of the largest manhunts for a missing person ever seen would form in hopes of finding Dennis. In total, there were 30 Boy Scouts, 51 Ranger students, and 3 helicopters, including 2 helicopters sent from the U.S. Air Force. On top of all that, too, there was a group of Green Berets that arrived from Fort Benning, and later that week, 40 more Green Berets would be on the case. It's completely wild that the case ramped up to this degree in less than 24 hours. So over the course of the next few days, the search would grow immensely, like I said, gaining hundreds of volunteers a day until the Park Service had to literally tell people to stop showing up. Talk about people coming together, though. That's awesome. At its peak, though, there were 1,400 searchers helping to try to find Dennis. Even the FBI and the Coast Guard were called in to help with the search. But one thing that was odd was that in the official National Park Service report, the reason that the FBI was called was not directly stated, because foul play had not been suspected yet, so there was no need for them really to be involved in this investigation unless the FBI and NPS knew something William Martin didn't. But the FBI would later conclude that Dennis was not abducted, despite his father's adamantly telling him that he believed without a doubt that foul play was suspected. But despite the NPS and FBI suspecting that foul play did not occur, they would conduct numerous interviews with people in the surrounding area, including Harold Key. What's even more strange is Harold's interview and the circumstances surrounding it. According to the FBI, when they reached out to Harold, he agreed to meet with investigators at the park. But when the time for the interview arrived, he never showed up to the park. Instead, the FBI's would run into him outside the park and continue the interview there. And during this interview, Harold once again claimed that he had no idea of the boy's recent disappearance, but called the authorities anyway because of the strange man and the scream he and his family had heard. Furthermore, where Harold's son would later tell newspapers that he had seen a bear or someone running through the trees in the same area where his father saw the man in the bush. Despite all the evidence that was presented to the NPS and the FBI, they concluded that Harold's sighting and Dennis's disappearance was in no way connected. So much so that they didn't even bother to investigate the area where Harold had that sighting, which is so stupid. NSP Ranger Dwight McCarter, who was well respected and NSP's best searcher at Great Smoky National Park, stated that it was possible for a man to carry a small child from where Dennis was located to where Harold spotted the man in the bushes, which is extremely prevalent. Even other people within the NSP, such as Harold Sherman, a research associate of the Experienced Services Program, a branch for older NSP employees, wrote literal letters to his superiors and news outlets of his beliefs that Dennis was in fact abducted, stating,
"I am impelled to ask you if you know whether or not there have been or are any questionable characters in this region, camping out in the wild in this area, like hermits, squatters. Such an individual may not be connected with the boy's disappearance at all, but I feel that a maniac, so-called, does exist in the vicinity and could have trailed the body. I hesitate to write anymore as my conscious mind is trying to reject such a feeling. I see something red and something being carried or dragged. Are there any caves in the vicinity? A stream may even run through it or part of it. I am always tormented when impressions come to my conscious mind trying to tell me that they couldn't possibly be true, but I get a feeling of sudden panic on the part of Dennis. What happened to him occurred suddenly, unexpectedly, and he could not or did not cry out. He seems to be struck down by something. The area is rugged."
I don't know why I gave him that accent, but I feel like it's right. It's right, and I agree with him. Go look! I don't know why I turned into Jerry Seinfeld. Also, I'm sorry, I gotta put on my glasses. I can't see. Chris reads screens or whatever.
Gather around because now is Chris reads screens.
And things continued to be weird, to say the least, as the searches concluded, and the case would unfortunately go cold. First, both the NPS and the FBI kept Dennis's father, William, in the dark about Harold Key's sightings. It also seems like they kept the general public in the dark about this as well. William didn't actually learn until the Key family sightings, until the NPS went public, which is f***ed up. They also didn't inform him of the FBI interview that took place after they told him his son's disappearances had no foul play involved. Furthermore, many people have requested an FOIA, which is a Freedom of Information Act, request on the Dennis case from the FBI. And this request has conveniently been rejected, including David Politis. Shout out, you're awesome. What's even more odd is that despite publicly stating the sighting, the NPS never created an official report about it. So the only way to know about it is through the newspapers. There were also numerous psychics called to cover the case, and some were even saying that he was alive and to check the trees for the body. But what's next might be the most damning information of it all. In 2011, David Politis drove to interview William Martin and Dwight McCarter to see if they had any unreleased information on the case. And from William's interview, we learned this. When Dennis disappeared, he was literally within 50 feet or less of William. His brother Douglas also never saw anything strange in the woods. William and an NPS fire prevention officer hiked from the Spence Field to the area where Harold saw the man in the bushes in 90 minutes flat, confirming that someone could have carried Dennis down the path. They also saw no caves and no evidence of anybody living there. Mr. Martin actually spoke with Harold and learned that he and his family saw a man carrying somebody over their shoulder along a nearby ridge at the time of Dennis's disappearance. What? And he also learned that the local newspaper purposely omitted and changed this information to say that they saw a bear. Mr. Martin would state that the head of the Park Services was merely just a figurehead and receiving orders from someone else, explaining why so much information was neglected and hidden. Furthermore, the lead FBI agent, Jim Reich, on the case took his own life only 4 years after Dennis's disappearance. Lastly, William firmly believes that his son was kidnapped by somebody waiting in the woods. He stated,
"There was no way his son could have gotten away as fast as he did without people finding him."
And based on this interview, it became extremely clear that the FBI and NPS were working closer together than people had thought. They both withheld information, and the people assigned to each case by the agency had odd events or information surrounding them. Like, to not tell the family of a missing child that a man was seen carrying someone over their shoulder is extremely odd, to say the least. It was almost as if they knew that Harold Key had seen something he shouldn't have, and that they wanted to investigate it privately or something. I love conspiracies, but it's just, I can't even imagine, as the family of Dennis, just not having any answers and knowing that you have been kept in the dark. Like, how could you not think of the most f***ed up things, you know? And that theory would be further backed up by Dwight's interview, and here's what we learned about that. Dennis still believed that a man could have easily carried Dennis away from Spencefield and through Rowan's Creek with ease, and when asked about why the FBI and NPS were downplaying Mr. Key's sightings, Dwight states that the FBI wouldn't have any knowledge of the woods, so dismissing the idea that a man could have trekked from Spencefield up to Rowan's Creek is not that crazy. The NPS, however, Dwight reaffirms that he has walked that area numerous times and knows for a fact that it is 100% possible. And Dwight stated that it was odd to have the Green Berets come and set up and enter the woods armed. In the 1970s, even NPS rangers were not armed. And previous instances when the National Guard got involved, they were usually unarmed as well. Additionally, in the case of Dennis Martin, the Green Berets didn't even interact with the NPS rangers. And Mr. McCarter confirms that there were wild men who lived within the park, which is terrifying, and that they purposely did so to avoid human contact. So when Mr. Keyes saw a man in the bush, it was technically possible for him to see a wild man just hiding in the bushes. He also stated, though, that he didn't believe that a wild man would have taken Dennis, as the only wild man that he knew of resided on the opposite side of the park from where Dennis disappeared. So the disappearance of Dennis Lloyd Martin is one of the most puzzling disappearances to ever occur. Like, how could a little boy avoid over 1,400 searchers, highly trained Green Berets, and experienced park rangers who know every nook and cranny of the park? Additionally, it seems like the military, FBI, and NPS knew something that everyone else didn't.
What the hell, y'all doing?
And it's not crazy to believe that the FBI would get involved, as foul play would have to be ruled out. But why would they purposely dismiss Key's sightings? And why would the newspaper alter what Key's family saw? Also, why did the Green Berets go into the woods armed? Maybe they were tracking some killer in the area, and when Dennis went missing, they pulled all of their efforts into scrubbing the area. It would also explain why there was such a significant response from military branches and investigative agents.
Yo.
Boy, I got the gun. What?
Midway through, I kind of just lied in bed, and I stayed there for like 5 minutes. Yeah, what were you saying?
I got the most OP gun in the game, so now I'm just gonna breeze through, hopefully.
Just gonna AFK or just grind?
No, I can't AFK to make the level go by.
Ah.
Smooth sailing now. I just can't be an idiot and die like last time. I literally backed my ass into the stairs for no reason. Literally no reason. I just died. That was dumb.
Now I know what to do. Oh yeah, I give up on studying this. I'm gonna study something else, man. Bored.
breeze through that round. Oh my god.
Well, you're still recording, right?
Yeah, I'm still recording.
Okay. Okay. Can't say anything illegal.
Hey, yo, illegal? What were you gonna say? That's illegal.
No,
What the hell?
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Say your credit card number and then see.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. So, bad idea.
If I don't make it on the leaderboard, I'm not gonna post this though.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a high likelihood I'm just gonna randomly die, because I'm an idiot sometimes.
Still, better be safe than sorry.
The last time I tried to do the record before I died, like down the stairs, I literally just was dancing. I was just shaking my screen, and I just died. The music was too good, bro.
Agencies. Or maybe they knew something was in the woods and were scared to encounter it. But let's look at similar disappearances.
I need to not log in for a bit.
Okay.
That have occurred in the same area. Our next story details the disappearance of Trenny Lynn Gibson. So on October 8th, 1976, in Great Smoky National Park, only 6 years after Dennis Martin's disappearance, Trenny Lynn Gibson vanished from hiking on a trail. On the 8th, 16-year-old Trenny was hiking to Klingman's
What?
How long has this run been so far?
4 hours, or like 3.5 hours.
Damn.
Yeah, started at like 12:30. Almost 4:30. I think that's a pretty good time because I was texting and then I had a spin for freeze for like 30 minutes.
Dome with her high school class, starting from Andrews Bald on the North Carolina side. She hiked with Robert Simpson and a group to Andrews Bald, but then turned around to walk back to the bus. And at 3 p.m., about 3/4 of a mile from their final destination, Trenny would vanish. And in the area of her disappearance, the trail was marked and she was in full view of other hikers. And following her disappearance, the NPS began a search for the missing girl and started doing interviews of the students to see if they had any information to offer. It is safe to say that what occurred before Trenny's disappearance was odd, to say the least. In multiple interviews, Trenny was last seen on the trail bending over, looking at something, and turning right off the trail right before vanishing. Furthermore, a fellow student, Anita Rounds, claimed that she had vanished from the trail completely. And it's important to note that the surrounding area was miles and miles of thick vegetation and forest. And next to the trail was a small stream and a slight rocky slope. Anita Bounds would say in an interview,
She was on the trail when I last saw her. I looked away, and when I looked back, Trenny was nowhere in sight. I should have been able to see her if she went up the trail. I checked the area where Trenny was last seen. No trail leading off, Very rough, small stream, brush and trees. Yelled, but no answer.
And the search would begin on the 8th, but was hindered by weather, which is very strange because that happened to Dennis as well. Not that that's all, but it's very weird. It's very convenient weather. And following the day that Trenny disappeared, the NPS really didn't do much to aid in the search. We already hate him at this point. It became such a problem that a Swain County Civil Air Patrol commander, John Maddox, had to call the NPS and complain about how he had people on standby and couldn't move forward unless they gave him the okay. And unfortunately, the NPS, would you know it, wouldn't respond to Maddox and his crew of over 40 searchers, 2 doctors, 14 pilots, and 5 planes all waiting to help search for Trenny had to be completely called off. And the search for Trenny lasted from the 8th of October through to the 22nd, during which time 300 volunteer searchers just combed the hills of the Smoky Mountains. The Army and US Marine Corps, along with helicopters and tracker dogs, all got involved, and they produced some evidence. Search dogs had found her scent at Andrews Bald and headed toward the Forney Creek Trail. Furthermore, investigators would find shoe prints matching in size and style of the shoes that she wore on that day she disappeared. And they would find those footprints at Double Springs Shelter, which is about 4.5 miles away from Andrews Bald by the trail and about a 2-hour hike away. And even more strange, according to some sources, search dogs found her scent at Clingman's Dome and then Collins Gap, which was in the opposite direction of where she was last seen and far east of Double Springs Shelter. And the FBI would briefly get involved, but like Dennis's case, they aligned with the opinion of the NPS, and said that there was no suspected foul play. And a psychic would eventually be brought into this investigation as well, and would say that they saw, quote unquote,
Trenny sitting in a hollow in what might be a bear den or something. Rocky area, not a lot of undergrowth. Several very large trees, lots of acorns on the ground.
That's what they sound like. I don't have a name or anything to go off of, but that's what I pictured, you know. And in April, her father would ask for another search by the NPS, but was told that only 25 people would be allowed to conduct a small survey of the area, meaning that the final search for his daughter would be small and non-intensive. NPS. So how was it possible that Trenny was able to walk 10 plus miles through rugged, thick vegetative forest and mountainous terrain to each location without being seen at all, by the way? We could even say that after she turned off the trail where her friends last saw her, she could have found another trail and hiked to the destinations where the evidence was found. But another question would then be brought up. How would she remain undetected despite being on extremely popular trails? Like I said in the beginning, hundreds of people walk through these trails daily. Surely one of them would have realized that a girl who had just walked past them was the one that went missing. Furthermore, she would have been torn up and dirty, which would have caused much more attention to be on her by onlookers. Another question that remains in the case as well is what did Trenny see in the woods that would cause her to go off trail, and why she would choose to go off trail instead of running to her friends if it was something dangerous or I don't know, you know? Like, did she see someone that she knew? Skinwalker. Or did something in the woods coax her off trail? Skinwalker. I just think it's a skinwalker. I'm scared. You won't catch me. You won't catch me in them woods, all right? And luckily for you, there are theories for both, so let's get into those. First theory is that she was being stalked and was kidnapped off the trail. A man by the name of Kelvin Bowman, what a stupid name, was shot in the foot of Trenny's yard after being caught creeping near her house. And later on, student testimony claimed that his car had been seen tailing the bus on the way to the hiking trail. Another possibility is that a classmate on the hike along with her lured her off the trail. As we mentioned earlier, Trenny was walking with
Bro, I'm listening to a podcast right now, for real. What are you doing?
I should probably start doing that.
Yeah.
I feel like I should
Like,
try this.
it's just, I don't know, it's entertaining while I'm just going in literal circles and just doing vibes endlessly.
Yeah, because I feel like music sometimes just gets a little bit boring to listen to after a while.
No, I like music. I just want to be like educated. Like, so then if I die, then it's not a complete waste of time.
Fair
like
enough.
people going missing and getting murdered mysteriously. It's beautiful. And of course, they're always in the woods, and I'm like, I grew up in the woods, so it's scaring me a little bit.
Oh, you're still here, so that's something.
Yeah, like
Yes.
a lot of the people that go missing are like little children that just start wandering off, and that was me as a child. I don't know how I'm alive. Like that was me as a child.
So it also depends on like how safe your area is, though.
My area really safe. Like honestly,
Yeah.
the little town that I grew up in, like you could just knock on a random stranger's door, and they'll just like greet you and be like, "Hey, you wanna come in?" And they're not like creeps, like they're actually nice.
I see. Yeah.
If you ever get lost in the certain town Maine I was from, neighbors got you.
Wait, hold on. Give me a second. I need tape.
Okay.
with Robert Simpson before turning around. And the two of them had been known to hang out outside of school, and when she disappeared, she was wearing his brown jacket. And when he was questioned about her disappearance, he said that after she left, he himself had gone off trail tracking a bear.
When I take notes on my computer, like when I do work on my computer, I use like this drawing tablet thing, right? So I can actually write. And the like connection of that is really loose right now. So I just have some tape to hold it together, but that tape like came off. So like I'm trying to fix it now.
Why are you still studying? I thought you were taking a break.
Yeah, no, I am. It's just this thing. I'm trying to figure out the connection on this. I'm not really studying. I'm just trying to make this work. Okay. It's so weird because it needs to stay at a certain angle or else it doesn't connect. Pain. Anyway, just like that.
Okay, I just don't believe anybody at this point. Furthermore, after she disappeared, Trenny's hairbrush would be found in his car. And after other students' testimonies, it was found that it would be extremely unlikely for her to leave her hairbrush behind because she always had.
Have you ever watched Stranger Things?
I have not, no.
Oh, bruh.
No, I watched like the first episode and I don't know, it kind of threw me off that there's meant to be high schoolers and it's a little bit like sexual. I don't know.
No, there's
You know
supposed
what I
to be
mean?
Wait, sexual? What? It wasn't
I don't remember.
sexual.
Is it? Oh, the sister, the older sister. I don't know. It was weird.
Oh, yeah. Oh, her.
That kind of threw me off. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a middle school crush.
Yeah, middle school. Yeah, I don't know, bro. That's. And that a little bit strange to watch.
Yeah,
Don't watch
that's
shows in general.
Bruh, it's like one of my favorite shows ever. I can't now. But this podcast, in the first episode of the first season, like this little boy went missing, and so she's literally playing like Stranger Things music. It sounds like Stranger Things music. Bruh.
Oh, that's like the thought of it for the beginning, right?
That's cute.
Always had it in her pocket, which like you could say that they hung out and stuff and that she would just leave her stuff in his car. I feel like that's just very, coincidental. It's not like that big of a thing, but you know, still suspicious, all right? Still suspicious. But in addition to all that, there were 2 recorded instances of Robert saying pretty heinous things to Trenny's sister, quote unquote.
If Calvin Bowman has Trenny, he will kill her. If he doesn't have her, I think she might have run off with some horny hitchhiker.
Like, who the says that about their good friend that just went missing and can't be found? Like, that's so up. There's too many theories in my head. Let's go on to other ones. So the final theory is where Dennis and Trenny's stories potentially match up. Both stories obviously involved something going wrong in the woods that is heavily suspected to be kidnappings. Dennis was hiding in the woods and disappeared. Later, in an area just below where he was last seen, a man spots another man with something over his shoulder running along the ridgeline. And Trenny was last seen bending over looking at something in the woods, and then strangely went off trail. And while searching for Trenny, the dogs would pick up her scent in areas miles apart and only accessible through trails or dense forests. Both children had also obviously never been found. The closest thing to being found was a footprint in the Double Springs shelter, but other than that, nothing. Both involved the FBI and the NPS, claiming that foul play was not a factor, yet both agencies stuck around to continue a private investigation. Furthermore, 2 divisions of the U.S. Special Forces were involved in the search. And we know that the Green Berets were armed during the search as well, but it is unknown if the Marines had firearms.
Oh,
Finally, both...
Oh my god, bio grades are out. Oh my god. I'm scared to look.
It's real.
The teacher's so shit. Wait, remember I told you about her, right?
Yeah, it's a bad teacher.
Yeah. Me and my friend Vic, we studied so aggressively. He got a 70. Oh my god, now I'm scared to look. The fact that the class average is like a 60 is insane. Like, she has no right to teach with a smile on her face if the class is getting consistent 60s.
Okay,
You
that's
have no
true.
right. You have no right to
those
smile.
teachers.
Don't smile
It's
like
like-
that. Don't smile when you
Teachers
teach.
that-
Yeah, what? Go on.
The teachers that make jokes, but like half the class is failing, so they
Yeah.
making any jokes.
Yeah, that's her. She has no excuse. Like, she's a young teacher. She's not even old. She's like 25.
Yeah.
She looks our age. It's like she just graduated and then just started, like, I don't know.
Torturing kids. Okay, I figured out what angle to hold this at for this to actually work, like the connection.
Do you draw with it too?
No, I don't. It's to help, like, write. I use one note, right? And I have, like, on my iPad, it's whatever. But then if I try and work on it on my computer, I can't really do it.
It's around 96. I'm making a really good time. actually. I think one round is like 1 minute and 45 seconds. Oh my god, I'm getting my period soon. Owie.
How do you know? Can you feel it or what?
Well, yeah, most women can, like, kind of tell, I think.
I see.
Yeah, most women can tell. You have, like, symptoms of shit. I could tell by when my back aches, and then if I have a hard time falling asleep, and then I feel like really anxious trying to fall asleep, that's how I know that I'm gonna get it. I don't know why. Like, why? Why does it do that? You're so stupid.
That's your bio teacher.
Oh, hell no! She's gonna quiz me on it and give me a 50.
I think I got this to work. Okay, finally got it to work. I think. I'll actually try writing.
You know, it'd be funny if I, so the 5th place record, the 5th is like the lowest place to get on the leaderboard. If I beat his record by just 1 round and I submit it, that would be really funny. He just gets removed.
You should. A little bit toxic, but you should.
That's toxic, yeah. But hey, I earned this. I'm a veteran.
Yeah, you earned it.
I've been playing this game since 2018, 2019. Yeah.
Both disappearances occurred within a very short period of time within each other, and were in very close proximity to each other as well. And in the search log, searchers wrote that they were searching Cade's Cove, which, if you recall, is the exact area where Harold Key saw the man in the bushes shortly after seeing the man running on the ridge. So looking at the evidence presented in each case, it looks like the disappearances could have been caused by the same thing. Many people have theorized that both disappearances are because of Bigfoot or wild men. Despite Dwight McCarter stating that it wasn't likely a wild man that took Dennis, all evidence points to someone being in the woods and running off with him. And same for Trenny. There was no way a 16-year-old girl who had just been bussed in knew her way around the woods enough to follow the path that she did. It had to be something or someone that led her or carried her through the woods, which is terrifying to think about. It would also explain why Trenny was lured into the woods, while special forces were called and armed in both cases, and why the FBI and NPS both did private investigations, withholding and changing information released to the public. It's because there is something in the woods at Great Smoky National Park, and whether it is a man or a beast, it has a propensity for stealing children. And while the idea of Bigfoot is crazy, many believe that the Smoky Mountains are home to the creature. Even David Paulides himself is a big believer and plans to appear at numerous Bigfoot conferences and talks. But it is tough to say what happened to both victims, but one thing is for sure, there was some shady shit occurring in the woods and in this investigation. But alas, my heart goes out to the families involved in this, and I hope that one day these kids can be found, because it's absolutely heartbreaking, and the conspiracies around it are also heartbreaking to hear about. But until then, be safe and be vigilant, and that brings us to our next stories. So as we know, David Paulides investigates many cases of missing persons from seemingly all areas of American history, and he takes a particular interest in those that offer no clear answers. Like many, he entertains the idea that perhaps there are answers beyond the scope of what science as we know it can explain. He explains why some people go missing and are never found, and some of the very strange ways that people are recovered, whether before or after they succumb to the elements, or the unknown. Some of these fascinating cases involve people who have gone missing and are found after their location is revealed to a family member in a dream. This concept is bizarre, I know, but how far-fetched is it really? Because I know I've had some dreams that were kind of like premonition-y.
Oh my god, bruh. You know what's crazy? What happened when I was little? Like, do you ever get a dream where something happens and then it happens the next day?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy. I had multiple dreams of like tornadoes, like twice, and then the next day I got an alert that said that there was a tornado in my city. Like I don't know, that's just wild. Like I never dream about tornadoes regularly, but then the 2 times that I did, it was a tornado. I don't know. It's freaky.
And I've scared myself, so who knows? But without further ado, we are going to...
That is weird.
Damn it, am I boring you? My bad.
No, I'm just trying to get this to work.
Okay.
I think, no, but okay, the annoying thing is that it worked for like 5 minutes and then it kind of just doesn't. I'm trying to figure out why.
Just like me, for real.
Going to look into some of these cases that David Paulides has detailed, and we can come to our own conclusions. First up, we have Gustav Dells. Nestled quietly along the banks of Susquehanna River, Duncannon, Pennsylvania, is a small town where time seems to flow a little slower. The kind of place where the air is thick with the scent of pine from the surrounding forests. And in the early 20th century, Duncannon was little more than just a dot on the map. Though its community was living and breathing apart from the rapidly industrialized world outside, every face here was familiar, and the steady pace of the river and the railroad marked the rhythms of daily life. With under 1,500 people as of the 2020 census, this sleepy little town still feels like it's suspended in time. It's still surrounded by the wilds, with state parks nearby and game lands for hunting to the northwest and south, and the river to the east. Residents even have access to the Appalachian Trail nearby. One can only imagine what it must have been like to live in this region in the early 1900s, before four-lane highways cut their way through the terrain like long, ugly scars. In this very place, on a November day in 1916, Gustav Dill, a man of modest means but strong character, went out on the river for the last time. He and his buddies went on a hunting trip with the goal of crossing the Susquehanna. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But plans would go awry when the boat flipped, and its occupants would be tossed into the river. Gustav would be pulled beneath the water, and unfortunately, Gustav did not know how to swim, and his friends would not be able to save him. Despite the best efforts of rivermen dragging the river for days with grappling hooks in hopes of recovering Gustav, there was unfortunately no luck. And the week or so after efforts had concluded and the hopes of finding Gustav had waned, his wife would have a dream in which every detail of his location was revealed, and even witness his funeral. So she would implore people to help her pick up the search again, but to no avail. It was only when a couple of old rivermen who took pity on her, skeptical of her claims to say the least, agreed to take up the search again 10 days after the boat accident. And within 5 minutes of casting their grappling hooks into the river for the first time, where Gustav's wife indicated, Gustav's body was recovered. And this story seems like the kind of tale that would make national news, or at the very least, the front page, right? A woman had a vision of where her husband's body could be found after his boat overturned. Like, what? That seems like a really big deal. But the only reference we could find of this was a small block from the third page of a newspaper, the Atlanta Georgian. And it says this:
A dream of his widow led to the finding of the body of Gustav Dill, a Duncannon who was drowned in the Susquehanna River there when his boat was overturned. Experienced rivermen had dragged the stream missing, so they believed, no current or eddy in which the body might have been lost. Efforts were discontinued 10 days ago. Several nights ago, in her dream, Mrs. Dill saw every circumstance of the finding of the body.
Yeah, in 2 minutes around.
And later, the funeral of the drowned man. She was unable at first to prevail upon any person to search for the body. Finally, 2 old rivermen, incredulous but full of pity, agreed to take upon the search again. Within 5 minutes after the man had thrown in their grappling irons, the body was hooked and brought to the surface at the place indicated by Mrs. Dill.
No interview, no nothing. Like, this woman, literally a miracle happened, and that's it. That's it. Anyway, I think that's like amazing and very interesting. And this happens like more than you think. Let's get into the next one. Alice May Mathers. Another city would also have the quiet serenity of its streets disturbed in 1963 when 12-year-old girl by the name of Alice May Mathers went missing. Mission is a city that is carved out of a place amidst the forests and the forest cover mountains in British Columbia. Also, I can say this now because I live in Texas. That's where I lived. I lived in Abbotsford, but I was living in Mission, and I love it. I literally lived in the woods, and it was awesome, and I miss it, but I love Texas as well. It's great. Anyway, it falls southeast of Vancouver and north of the Fraser River and neighbors the Golden Ears Mountain, which I've climbed on many occasions. Alice May Mathers was a 12-year-old girl who lived with her family on the outskirts of Mission, British Columbia, Canada. And on June 9th, 1963, she disappeared under circumstances that would later reveal a chilling crime. Alice had spent the day visiting her married sister, who lived about a mile from the Mathers home. That day, she borrowed an electric mixer from her sister and planned to use it for baking when she returned home. However, Alice never made it back. When she didn't arrive home as expected, her father traced her steps back. But found no sign of her. The Mather's family and friends and neighbors began searching for her immediately, and soon after the RCMP, or Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And there would also be an additional 100 volunteers helping to search for Alice. And the primary search area would be the dense woods surrounding the Mather's property, and obviously the route that Alice would have taken to get home. And early in the search, dogs would be brought in to pick up Alice's scent. And the dogs would trace her trail from her sister's house to the nearby Lougheed Highway, where the smell would abruptly end. And this discovery raised the possibility that Alice could have been abducted. And the Mather's family would grow increasingly desperate as the days passed.